had like these books of questions, and you can get them on Amazon. We just sat. His roommate just happened to be out of town that entire
which never
weekend.
happened. And Ashley came with these books, and they were like
Question books.
Question books, like books of questions.
And so we just went through them.
And we literally just sat across the couch from each other. No phones, no TV. We sat across from each other and we just talked. And we asked questions and we answered the questions. And it did so much for our relationship because it kind of like just was a huge building block on who we are as individuals and who we're going to be as a couple.
Where a lot of people, when they get into relationships, they kind of are guarded, you know. They have their walls up. Our walls were completely down.
Yeah.
Because we like I said, we don't have time for
I definitely don't
playing
have time.
games, you know?
No.
It's like, okay, I know you're the one. This is God ordained. We're definitely getting married. So let's just put everything out there on the table.
Yeah.
You know, no secrets, no holding back.
And I was so honest with her in the beginning about everything. There's not a question she could have asked me that she wouldn't have got the truth to. And my thing that I always went with was, I always said to her, and I said this to myself first and then to her, I said, I never want my wife to look stupid in front of anybody. Mm-hmm. So no one will ever have anything on you that you don't already have. Mm-hmm. So we'll never go into a room and so-and-so knows what Lee did and you don't know what Lee did. Or so-and-so knows that Lee dated this girl and you don't know that already. You'll be the only one that actually knows everything.
Yeah.
Because people know stuff, obviously. I mean, you had friends from the past, but you're going to be the one that knows everything. So you'll never be caught off guard. Because I would never want my wife to be caught off guard.
And look
foolish.
And
look foolish. Yeah. And that was very important to me.
They could say they've seen the highest mountain, bottom of the deepest sea. But no one's ever seen a love like this. They could dig a bowl of baby treasures where it's worth more than anything. But no one's ever seen a love like this. Ooh.
I think for us, you know, not everybody has God at the center of their marriage. But for us, before there's a marriage, individually, there was a God for us. Mm-hmm. And faith was a big thing for me. It was a big thing for her. Mm-hmm. So coming into it, it was already like, okay, this is not only important, this is first. Mm-hmm. And it's important because it keeps us not only accountable, it keeps us submitted to that being that's higher than us. Mm-hmm. We know we don't come from ourselves. And when you can come with that point of view and that mindset, you can look at each other with more grace, with more understanding, with more love, because you understand, like, okay, we're not the reason why each other's here. Mm-hmm. He's the reason. So now that we acknowledge that, our faith tells me to do one thing as a husband, tells her to do one thing as a wife, and it's a reflection of the relationship of us and him. Yeah. And that's what's going to make us successful. If he's saying for us to do unto each other as he does unto us, and we'll win in the end, then let's make sure we keep him at the center of it, and we'll be all right.
Yeah, I don't have to follow that.
When we first actually started dating, he hadn't proposed to me yet, but we just knew we were going to get married anyway. So we were already preparing for that, sending out invites, you know, telling people about it. That's where we did the taste testings at the venues. We had chosen a venue. We put down a down payment on the venue, and we were tracking. However, we weren't tracking in a sense of our relationship getting stronger and us moving to a place where we were really solid. I know for him, he had mentioned how I was so into planning the wedding that I wasn't necessarily taking as much care and time in putting into the relationship for us to build and have a foundation. Through the months of just planning, it was actually very difficult for us because we were just in two different places, in terms of reality. I'm like, everything's fine. We're planning the wedding. Everything else will work itself out. And he's like, no, we have some real things that we need to iron out.
I forgot all about that.
And he didn't feel confident in pursuing a wedding, and solidifying a marriage. And we still had some rocky peaks.
Wedding day.
Sorry, can I do wedding first?
No, you
I'm gonna
can't.
do it
You
real
can't
quick.
do any more answers.
I'm gonna do it real quick.
It's impossible
I'm
for
gonna
you
be
to do
quick.
them
I'm gonna
short.
be quick.
Know yourself.
Okay, listen.
Know yourself.
So
People's babies are banging on the window.
Well, listen. So the wedding as the man was, it was crazy because James. That was the first time that I saw a little bit of her perfection, but also seeing her overwhelmed with something, and
So the wedding, I planned it.
and
That's what he means.
Yeah, and a really famous football coach said, he's like, listen, say yes to everything. So all the men out there, say yes. Everything your wife wants to do for the wedding, say yes to. I'm just kidding.
You know what's so funny? Like, I was never the girl, the princess. Like, I was never that type of girl. Like, oh my gosh, one day I'm going to get married in my dress. Like, I never thought about that, until I was proposed to. Then it was like, okay, like my wedding is coming up. And then I started to like fantasize and like, okay, I want everything to be perfect. And it rained, which I hear is a sign of good luck. I don't know.
So the proposal happened and we wanted to have a short engagement. So we got engaged Christmas Eve. And then that following July, we got married. I got excited with planning. It became a game to see how I could do things cheaply. So I was hitting up Michael's, Joanne Fabrics, AC Moore, getting my bouquet. I still have my bouquet. It was fake flowers, but it looked so real. Like it became so fun of seeing how can I do this. And we found this church and my mom was like wanting to have a lot of input. And I was like, I've got this. She's like, well, you gotta have, what about these flowers? I was like, the church has ferns. That's fine. She was so mad at me because I'm like, I'm not going to put all of this into it. It's really just about us. And so the planning became fun. Like your mom got in on it. She was helping me print invitations. I was using their printer and I really enjoyed the planning process and our wedding day. But
one of the cool things we did also was the day before.
Yes.
The night before the wedding.
That's what I was going to say.
All of our out-of-town guests who came in, we had a meal for everyone. And the pastor started, and he said, hey, if anyone wants to say anything encouraging about them, now's your chance. So he said a little something, and just different family members and friends said, like, stories that they remember about us or
went on for hours.
Encouragement. It was just such a blessing.
Even before that, the out-of-town guests, we went to a baseball game. We invited everyone to the Greensboro Grasshoppers. At the time, they were Grasshoppers. So there was a song that they would play during the game.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, okay, you want to hear? Okay, I guess. Do you love waffles? Yes, I love waffles. Do you love pancakes? Yeah, I love pancakes. Do you like French toast? Yeah, I like French toast. Waffles!
It's a real song.
It's a real song. They played it throughout the whole game. It was the most perfect, event. The fact that it was our we were all there to celebrate for our wedding, and the waffle song
the most random things.
So perfect.
Was just awesome.
The proposal was interesting.
It was.
We knew we were going to get married, so as it got closer to the time, I got her a ring, and she knew I had the ring. But we went to a restaurant for dinner, and during the dinner, I gave her the ring and kind of proposed. It was kind of okay, we're going to get married. So
yeah, it wasn't romanticized at all.
Yeah.
It was
just very genuine and authentic. It wasn't like anything major, but and I've never been really one big on, oh, it's got to be this way, and oh, this is what I saw. I've never been that kind of person. Even our wedding was very small. It was
Just family?
at a church.
Yeah.
And I think it actually was in Compton. It was a minister of my best friend, and it was literally his immediate family and my immediate family, which is all my cousins. So it was a very intimate, small ceremony, maybe 50 people, maybe.
Yeah, 50.
And then afterwards, we went to my parents' houses where we had the reception. So it was really, really just like a big family gathering. My wedding dress was beautiful, but it wasn't traditional. So and would I do anything differently? No, not at all.
Our wedding. We got married on April 4th, 2015, in Altadena, backyard of an estate.
So the family that I went on the mission trip for, they were the ones that hosted it. They allowed us to use their backyard to do our wedding, and they have a beautiful home in Altadena. It's an estate, and they had this large backyard. And I was like, you know what?
It was perfect. It was like a full circle moment. Like, wow, okay. I'm praying, and if you think about it, it's now hitting me like the woman that I was praying for on stage to go to a mission trip, or on her mission trip with this family, and now we're having our wedding in this same family's backyard. Like I actually never thought about that. Have you? No. Well, you didn't know I was praying for you until now. I didn't. Yeah.
Because we were friends, because we knew that we were supposed to be together, and because we also had the confirmation from God, and we're both very spiritual people, that to us it means everything. If we know like God approves this thing, we're like, oh, cool, everything else will work itself out. And so that was the approach that I had, was that everything was just going to work itself out. But in that time period, it didn't necessarily. So we had actually broken up. We called off the wedding because we weren't even engaged yet, and that's where we didn't necessarily go the traditional route. But we called off the wedding. People had inquired like, what's going on, and we had gave the kind of stock response like, oh, we're just gonna take our time. We're just gonna wait it out. But that ended up leading to us breaking up. So we were broken up for, what was that, like 3 months?
Yeah.
So we were broken up. We were broken up for 3 months. And, that really gave us some time to step aside and to reassess the relationship, reassess ourselves, to then ultimately, when we did come back together, he had actually pretty much just gave such a monumental apology, in a sense of not really apologizing for anything per se, but more so really seeing the value in me and understanding like he did not want to lose me. But it wasn't in a way of an aggressive pursuit. It was so delicate and gentle that it moved me in such a way where I just couldn't continue on and not see like, okay, yeah, this is it. So it's just a testament to where even if you do get that confirmation, you still have to work that thing out. It wasn't like, okay, we have the confirmation, now everything's going to work itself. No, we had to do the work. And so when we actually finally did the work, then that's where we were able to build something.
We were just waiting for time. Time in the essence. I was a year behind her. She graduated from Bible school, went to another island for a number of months. And so I'm just waiting for my graduation day.
I came back in October. Like say, I came back in October, and I waited. That's before the next year. Then he's going to graduate. So I waited, and in December of that same year, we got engaged. And then the next year, when he graduated in May, we got married in June.
Yeah, that was it. It was set, you know, we knew
it was all set, everything, you know.
And then in that case, time, when you're more mature in the Lord, and it's like, you know, it's it. The other thing didn't work, then that's it. You know, that's it. So I'm going to become the best student. I'm going to be, you know, upright, you know, in everything that I do, because I realize now God's moving. This is where God's taking me. So that was it. We were ready.
The wedding is my first time ever paying for a whole wedding, a honeymoon, all by myself.
Yeah, that was deep.
Like, made the decision, all right, we're getting married.
And we started right away.
We started right away, and we did not understand. We just didn't know. Okay, I know the wedding that you want. At first we kind of went back and forth, because I was like, well, let's just meet in the middle. Let's do something, you know, still beautiful, but a little bit more, you know,
and I was
save
like,
a little.
But I want this beautiful, dreamy. I wanted what I wanted, and it wasn't like, this is what I want. If I don't get it, we're not getting married. It was just like, this is my heart's desires.
Yeah. She wanted one thing. She wanted a beach wedding.
You know what? It wasn't that I wanted a beach wedding. I wanted water. I wanted water. It was like, God
just... wedding on a lake.
God kept showing me water. I was going to be in front of water. So I was thinking, I'm going to be on the beach.
And I was thinking, I want somewhere. My biggest thing is I need something with character.
Yeah.
I gotta have some wood or something around. However that looks. We actually found our place on a date. After we got engaged. The next day we went. Oh, that's right.
We went on a date.
A lot. Listen, I'm still waiting on a thank you card.
I gotta get my thank you card, y'all.
We after the proposal, the next day, we went on Malibu wine safari ride. So we in Malibu, and it's a beautiful safari ride that they take you on, wine tasting, and you see the giraffes and all this other stuff. Yeah. But while we're on the safari ride, where people found out we just got engaged, and the couple was like, "Oh, we got married at such and such." What's the
Calamigos Ranch in Malibu.
And we were like, "Oh, okay, we haven't heard about this spot." So we go home, we look it up, and we're looking at the different. They have different venues. And I'm like, "Wow, this is what I want."
I was like, "This is probably out of our budget."
Yeah, it was a beautiful place.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I was like, this is what I want. I was trying to explain to her. She was like, okay, it's beautiful. Let's just go see.
Yeah.
So we schedule, we go.
I walked up the steps on the platform and just heard the water just gushing down. I got speechless. Like, this is what I need. And so I wasn't really saying much. Then we go inside and it had this big tree coming from out the ground. And all the tables was around. It was exactly the character. It had the water that I wanted and the character that he needed.
The tree is what sold me. Because at first I was like, oh, this is dope. This is beautiful. I got inside. I was like, yo, they got a tree in the middle of it. I was like, oh yeah. I said this. Yeah, this is what we want.
Yeah.
For me, the whole wedding, like if you look at like some of our antiques from the wedding, it was like everything that Jamie did for the wedding was literally like a fairy tale. Like if you look at our wedding video, all the way from the aesthetic to the field to the people there, how everybody was dressed, everything was perfection. And like every time I look back on it, I feel like I'm in a forest from like an Amazon forest, in the middle of a.
It was a beautiful day. The wedding was like perfect. I'm really thankful because I had like some really great friends that like were really super helpful with helping me put it together, because we like did it ourselves. Like we were like cutting roses like the day before and putting together our own flower arrangements, and the ladies and I were all like getting everything together. I didn't sleep the night before, and I remember walking down the aisle and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna pass out. And then I just got this like supernatural surge of energy and like made it through the rest of the day and night. It was just like it was a real celebration. Like a year and a half into the date,
into our courtship, into the. I mean, it was beautiful.
It was literally perfect.
It was my favorite wedding I've ever been to.
It was literally perfect. Yeah.
Objectively.
Because of Jamie.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
But it was perfect. It was something, it was very dreamy. It was very like walking down the aisle and it's like all I could see was him. Like I don't even remember when people was like, I was there. I don't remember who was there. But it was perfect. My dress I felt like everything back then was perfect. Of course, when I look at the pictures, I'm like, this has been 11 years ago. So I'm like, ooh, yeah, you could have done something different. But I don't regret anything about the wedding day, actually.
The wedding day, I remember even setting up for it. Even when we got engaged and told her mother, she was just a little like, now wait a minute, you haven't talked to me. We ain't, so I didn't have that official. It was so spontaneous. So by the time I came back around, I made sure I covered bases the right way. But then in preparation, my father's a pastor. So there was this church, a pretty large church that he rented the church had multiple sanctuaries. And so we rented one of the sanctuaries that he would have service in. And then there was the main sanctuary, which was very, very big. It was kind of elaborate and it looked actually really good. So we were kind of like a little bit lucky to have
like
that.
More cathedral.
It was cathedral style and it was nice, had the balconies and everything. We came up with our colors. We were just happy picking our colors and all of that stuff. And we had like 8 groomsmen.
Too many
people. 8 groomsmen and eight bridesmaids, and it was just a lot. But we were young, and we were just trying to make it extravagant. But what's funny is, all of a sudden on this day, we got married September 18th of 2010, and then on this day, it was so funny because everything was good, but this day it decided to be hot, and so the wedding was so hot inside the wedding, and there was no AC. It's like an old cathedral style thing, and there was no AC. And then we're like, all right, whatever. So we get done with the wedding, and once the wedding's over, now we're taking pictures, and then it rains. It cools down, and now it's raining. So we're like, okay. So, but it was beautiful. We had a lot to go. I remember standing at the altar. And I remember her coming down, and I just remember it's like she was just glowing so much. It was just like she was so beautiful walking down. And that's something that even then I was like, I'm seeing her walk. I was like, yeah, you making the right choice for sure. And I was like, all right, let's go ahead and do this.
So our wedding day was actually my moving day as well. The night before the wedding, so we've had the game. The game was like 2 nights before, and then we had the rehearsal. We had the rehearsal dinner. My mom's didn't have a dress for the wedding.
The day before.
The day before. My mom still had yet to purchase her wedding dress, her dress for the wedding. So I'm packing. I'm loading up. I'm moving out of the house that I was staying in and loading up my trunk and throwing stuff in and having to now also, now you tell me you don't have a dress? I'm getting married tomorrow. So I dropped her off.
And we were moving out of state.
Out of state, yeah.
So it was like
it was a big move.
It was a big move.
So I dropped her off, and then, so all of the fun things that come up the night before the wedding. She found a dress. The day of the wedding, I can't find my makeup. I can't find it. I'm supposed to have my makeup. I'm supposed to get my hair done. Like, I've got everything planned. I can't find anything. It turns out I ended up taking everything out of my trunk. It turns out that was like the first thing that my mom packed. So it was in the back corner of my trunk, like all the way. It was the first thing that she packed. So the wedding day started off so I'm like taking everything out that I've just carefully packed, finding this, shoving it back in. I even went to my maid of honor's house. I like ran through her house looking for everything because I had a key to her house. It was very stressful. So then I get there we're running way behind. Like after everything, I was ready. Like I got ready. Oh, yeah. Everything was fine. I got ready.
It just didn't start, right?
It didn't start.
Yeah. Everyone was ready.
But you know why it didn't start? Is because my maid of honor just didn't tell me that are you ready to go? I was just chilling, but I had no idea what time it was. We rushed and I got ready. Everything was done. I had no idea. I was just eating a banana. So I didn't find out till later that we were really late. And I'm like, I was right there. So, but the day itself was really great.
Yeah.
It was a really wonderful day. Although our photographer mistook you for our...
My brother got some good photos of himself.
I wanted a wedding, but I was never one of those girls that thought like, oh my gosh, I just have to have this big wedding and it needs to be this and that. You know, I thought, okay, a nice wedding would be cool. But when I actually started getting into it, it became exciting. And I, of course, then I wanted the things. We then, because we did all the venues and everything before we put so much into it, we went a much more laid back approach the second time around. And, we found a nice location. You weren't here yet. We found a really nice location. We got prepared. We sent out the invites. This time it was really going down because our relationship was solid. We were good. And everything was just going to be beautiful. Put all the deposits down, DJs, all the things, the food, all the things. And then the pandemic happens. And what's crazy is our wedding date was literally the week that everything was shutting down. So right before our eyes, we're having to shift and pivot and we're having to adjust in the moment. And that was, to me now, I'm realizing that was, it was a lesson and it was just a challenge for us to undergo together. But, it taught us a lot because that week we called it off and it was pretty abrupt. And it was more of a decision of mine because they were shutting everything down and the language they were using was so, fear-based to where I'm like, I don't want to go to jail for having a wedding, And this was actually 2 days before the wedding. Mm-hmm. So this was 2 days before the wedding. The night that I sent that, he was very disturbed. And I asked him what's going on? How do you feel about this? And he was like, I don't think we should have did that. And he explained to me why, and just being like, we just need to go forward with what we have and how, however many people are going to be there, they're going to be there. Our parents already came in town. I had a few siblings. He had, his brother come in town. And then we just had, a core group of people that we had already invited. And he's like, you know what, we should just go through with it. And I saw his heart and I heard a very grounded solution that he had to just the situation that we were facing, which was unpreventable. There's nothing that we could have done about it.
Well, it kind of, sort of, we were on two different pages.
Oh, very much so.
I thought earlier that day when we knew all of the conditions that we had a brief conversation. It was a brief 2-second call, hearing that everything was shutting down. I thought it was one of those vague things. Hey, so we're still gonna, nothing really of substance was said, but I thought we were still okay, we're moving forward. So when we finally get together and talk, I understand from that moment that she's wanting to shut it down. And I'm like, whoa, no, we're moving forward. So when me getting the upset thing she's referring to was more or less we came so far and so many people will look at the worst obstacles and circumstances as signs and reasons why not to do something. And me, on the other hand, I look at it as all the more reason and opportunity to persevere. Because if you succumb to those conditions now, then the slightest thing or all the things to follow in life can cause you to do that also. So when we finally got to the understanding of the place to where she's talking about, we made the wedding happen with the help of our pastor and we already had, since we had everyone in town. It wasn't the wedding you would have planned in the beginning. If we had enough foresight, we definitely could have.
Yeah,
but it
true.
ended up being the perfect wedding for us, even down to our favorite song that is now our favorite song. The first song.
First dance.
The first dance. We didn't get that far into planning the wedding that
because everything just kept changing.
Yeah, and so we didn't have our first dance or our first song for our first dance until the first dance, and we realized this is it. This is gonna be, and it was.
She wants to move.
She wants
by
to move.
NERD.
I'm like,
it's not romantic at all. But every time I hear it, I'm like,
okay, you know. So
that look in her eyes.
So that's
She
where we'll
loves
be
it.
at 50,
But
70,
every time
80.
I hear it, I'm like, that's our song, babe. And he still hasn't accepted it. But that is our first dance as
It's
husband and wife. That's our song.
it's the most organic thing to ever happen.
It is.
Other than, this little one.
We had like a city meets country theme.
City meets country. So we had a country menu and we had a city menu. So the city menu had like, the baked chicken, quinoa, whatever it was. And then the southern menu had like fried fish.
Yeah, we had like fried fish
and like mashed potatoes.
Buddies. It was delicious.
Good.
Let me tell you.
And obviously everyone that was there,
they loved
the countryside, So we had a lot of baked chicken left over, but
it wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. You're right. She was beautiful.
Thank you.
She was stunning, but you stole the show. I was an accessory. I was, and we had the wedding. She had a beautiful white gown on, and we had our first dance. We had the sparklers at the end, and then we got escorted to our hotel. Then all that waiting.
Oh my Lord.
Hey man, that waiting came to an end.
I think we kind of cut our wedding short, actually.
Yeah, we did.
Because when I was like, all right, we can go now, everybody was like, wait a minute, what? It wasn't that long.
It wasn't.
In terms of like the reception and everything.
Nah, we got to go.
I'm like, all right.
Love y'all.
We went downtown and did some things downtown.
Hey!
We were sold at that point.
We went back to the office and they told us that price.
Told us the price and it was like, all right, I'm an actor. I'm coming up. But this is how God works. So I was like, all right. I said, listen, I got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, he left me there with the
I left.
lady.
I said, I'm
and
gonna
I'm
go to the
like
bathroom.
fidgeting like, I don't know what he's
I didn't go to the
I want
bathroom.
this.
I went for a little walk up to the other venue, and I was like, I said, Lord, if this is the place, just please tell me if this is the place. And then I finally went to the bathroom. So I'm walking down the steps. As soon as I'm about to walk into the office, he's like, this is the place. Put down the down payment. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I asked her, I'm like, what's the down payment? She's like, I think $1,500 to hold the spot. And I was like, I had like $1,600 and something in my account. I was like, all right, Lord, if you say this is the place, this is really all I got right now. So I'm like, all right. And she was like, you sure? I'm like, yeah.
Because when he came back, I looked at him like.
So boom, we left the deposit. And I was like, we'll figure it out. I didn't even say this is what the Lord said. I just was like, we'll figure it out.
You didn't even say we'll figure it out. You just was like, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
I was in shock.
Maybe, I want to say 2 weeks later, maybe a week and a half, something like that. My agent calls me and he's like, hey, you busy? I'm like, nah, I'm on the way to this thing. And he's like, the Best Buy commercial you did, the one that was online, internet only. I'm like, yeah. He's like, they want to renew it for the next year. And I'm like, he's like, for television. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know what this meant at the time. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, so what? He's like, so, you could decide to have your check given to you in installments or you could just get it all up front. I'm like, yeah. He said it'll be like $40,000. I was like, huh? He's like, yeah, it'll be about 40. He's like, well, after we get our cut, it'll be this. And I was like, oh yeah, give me all that up front. So I'm like, I hang up the phone. I'm kind of like, yo, this is crazy. I'm like, that's literally the wedding, the honeymoon, and a little bit left over. So, and I got home. I hadn't even called her and told her.
He did not.
I got back to the house, and And I'm just casually, we're in the bedroom, I'm folding clothes. I was like, oh babe, yeah, so I got the money for the wedding. And she was like, huh? I was like, they renewed the Best Buy commercial and this is how much it's gonna be. She was like, shut up. That was one of the moments I'll never forget, because it's like, man, you hear that voice, boy, you better act on it. So, you know, we had a beautiful wedding. You
The
know what I'm
wedding
saying?
was amazing. Yeah.
Beautiful honeymoon in Jamaica for a week. And that was my first time in Jamaica, her first time in Jamaica. I've always wanted to go to Jamaica. I'm a huge Bob Marley and reggae fan. So it was my first time cliff diving. We had a lot of firsts.
We had a lot of firsts in
a lot of firsts.
Jamaica. The wedding. Yeah, it was
dope.
It was
dope.
the best day.
And what's funny, we were looking at some pictures last
We-
night.
just last
and
night.
We pulled out a couple of our wedding photos. One of us standing in front of the minister, and then one she was
Taking
placing
pictures
the,
with my cousins and stuff.
placing the ring on my finger.
Yeah.
So it was very simple. Her brother was my best man.
Yep, and my best friend.
Yep.
Was,
it was
maid of
just,
honor.
it was kind of like our relationship from the very beginning.
right. That's right.
It was the families together.
You know, family is so important.
Amazingly.
And something Dad said earlier, which is so key, we didn't have a lot of outside influences. And we didn't have a bunch of couples that we hung out with. So we've never been the type of people that are in competition with anyone. We've always been very confident and secure in what God has for Sherelle and Michael, you know, which is so important, because I think today a lot of couples get caught up. They have these circle of friends, which is not a bad thing, but you start looking at, oh, they're doing this, so I need to do that. No, you need to do what God says for you to do. We've never been that way. You know, we've never had didn't have a social circle of friends where we go to dinner and hang out and all that stuff. We just never did.
It was always our family.
Yeah.
And that's what it is now. And now we have
Our church family.
our extended church family. And outside of that, there's still not many outside influences. And I think it makes for us the best situation, because she relies on me, I rely on her.
Amen.
And we don't, there's I'll be honest, maybe a couple of people outside of that I'll listen to.
Yeah.
And outside of our spiritual mother and father, there's not a whole lot of
There's
folks
not a
that
whole lot.
are going to influence
Yeah.
what we're doing. If it doesn't come from them, then we're the next two people
That's
to
right.
make that decision. And for us, it's all about family. It's just, that's who we've always been. That's what makes this relationship work.
Amen.
They could say they've seen the highest mountain, but